Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Good morning. Good to see you all today. Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. We're glad to have you with us today. My name is Barbara Rosen, and I serve on our Board of Trustees, and I'm serving as your worship associate today. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer you a warm welcome. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. As such, ours is an active church, and everyone is invited to participate in any of our activities. To learn more about events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'd be happy to talk with you during the coffee hour. Our children are with us during the beginning of the service at this time, and we have faith formation programming available with our gifted leader, Jami, Cruz, over here. Children gather for their time together with her after the story. If you'd like more information about our programming, please contact Reverend Kristina or see Jami after the service. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out and put it in the offering plate or give it to our greeters, you'll be able to keep in touch with you. If you are watching us on Zoom or YouTube, you can send us an email at membership@uutarpon.org to get connected. There are also small cards to write any joys or concerns that you would like to share with us if you prefer to do it in writing. We're delighted to have Reverend Kristina Spaude leading our service today. And music is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst, and our wonderful choir. Again, welcome.
Our opening hymn is in your teal hymnal, number 1012, When I Am Frightened. And if you would like to stand, if you feel good to stand, you are welcome to do so.
When I When we introduce ourselves, it is helpful if the mic is on, and for those with vision loss and others to say some things about ourselves. So I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. I use she, her pronouns, and am a white woman. I have chin-length curly brown hair, parted on one side with blue eyes. And here at the church, we want to acknowledge that we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. Our opening words this morning come from Tess Baumberger. This is Winter Meditation. Something has changed in me this winter. In the past, I focused on how long winter is, how miserable I find it, and how it seems so interminable. This winter, I find myself thinking instead that every day, every hour, every minute brings us that much closer to spring. We all experience wintry times when things seem harsh and frozen or muffled by layered shrouds of snow. It is helpful to remember that each day that dawns bleakly, each night that wraps its cold cloak around our hearts, brings us closer to that time of warm and vibrant sun. It is perhaps helpful to consider that turning towards spring is an active thing. The earth, which seems so stable, in fact, flies quickly through space on its path that tilts us ever toward the source. So too, each memory we lay to rest, each truth in ourselves that we encounter and accept, each wrong act that we forgive, ushers us on towards our renewal. Come, let us worship together.
And as we light this chalice, we reflect on the words also by Tess Baumberger. The holiday season is upon us, but this year many of us moved toward it with leaden feet. It has been such a year, and because it has been such a year, it may feel forced to enter into the jolly sprint of Christmas, the joyful spirit of Hanukkah, the reflective spirit of solstice, the hopeful spirit of New Year's.
Each month this year, we have been doing a volunteer appreciation, and this month, I want to say thank you to Barbara Kostreva. If you are new here and haven't yet met her, you will. Barbara greets everyone she can, and I know she feels guilty if there are so many people that she can't get to them all. These are good problems to have, though, right? Barbara has served in this congregation in a variety of ways, but most especially in the area of membership. She was the membership committee chair for years, and while she no longer holds this title, she is still a very active participant in the work of our membership team, from making name tags to making sure to reach out to our newer folks and welcome them in with invitations to our second Sunday and second Monday conversations. Barbara has helped facilitate our covenant groups, participates in the mindfulness meditation group, and does other things for and with the congregation. But Barbara doesn't just serve this congregation. One of the things I love best about her is that she is a rock-solid Unitarian Universalist. She understands and serves our faith, which currently means an embodied practice in this congregation, but not exclusive to this congregation. Barbara served for some time as the convener of the Tampa area UU Church cluster and still often attends their meetings. She keeps up on what's going on in our faith nationally and on other levels. She knows our history with nuance, knows our theology, knows our polity, and never stops learning or being curious. And when she nods her head in worship, I know that she does so with a deeper appreciation for what's being said, the kind that can only come when you've been invested in it with your whole heart and spirit for more than 20 years. When she came to our faith, she brought with her the willingness to be transformed, of being transformed, and wanting to share the power, value, and meaning of that experience with others. Her passion for this faith runs deep because of this. We have different perspectives on things, to be sure, but it is such a gift to know that someone is really paying attention and wanting to live our faith with conviction, commitment, and courage. Our story today comes from Sherry Philibom. This is Who Loves the Dark? There once was a child who got lost in the woods. As night began to descend, the child became more and more frightened. I'm sure any of us would have been frightened too in that situation, but what made this child even more frightened was that he had always been afraid of the dark. He was more afraid of the dark than any of his friends or his siblings. He didn't know why he was more afraid than his friends or his siblings. He only knew that when the sun went down, he was always very glad to be inside his brightly lit house. When the sun was all the way down, and the only light was just a tiny bit of light from the moon and the stars, the child got so frightened all he could do was sit down and cry, which he did. Soon he heard a voice say, "What's all that racket?" He looked down and saw a mole squinting up at him. "I'm lost in the woods," he said, "and it's dark, and I'm afraid." "Well," said the mole, "perhaps you could take your noisy crying farther down the path. I hate having to come out of my warm, comfortable, dark hole to tell people to be quiet." Then the child heard another voice. "Go back into your hole, Mr. Mole. I'll take care of this." The child looked up in the direction that this newer voice seemed to come from, and in the darkness he could see two glowing eyes looking down at him. Before he could scream, which was his first impulse, there was a flutter of wings and the creature flew down near him, and he could see that it was an owl, who said, "Please excuse Mr. Mole. He hates to come out of his nice dark hole for anything, to be honest." At this, the child burst out crying even harder than before, because as frightened as he was of the dark, having non-human animals speak to him was beyond his experience and a little frightening in itself. "No need for that crying," said the owl. "If you just give me your address, I can guide you home." With that, the child did indeed stop crying, partly out of relief that someone might be able to lead him home, and partly out of curiosity as to how an owl could locate his home with or without the address. But deciding he had little to lose, the child choked back his tears and replied that he would be very grateful to be guided home, and gave the owl his address. And I hope everyone here has their home address memorized in case an owl ever has to guide you home. So this strange pair headed off down the dark forest in what the child hoped was truly the direction of his home. When his fear left him just a little, the child looked around, and though the moonlight was dim, he began to notice his surroundings a bit. At one point, he noticed a kind of flower that he had never seen before and slowed his pace just a little so that he could gaze at it. "That," said the owl as they continued walking, "was an evening primrose. Did you know that there are some flowers that bloom only at night? Did you know that there are some flowers that bloom only at night? There are moon flowers and night gladiolas too, flowers you would never see if you never went out at night." After a while, the owl said, as if musing to herself aloud, "And of course, there are animals too who love night and the darkness. Me, for example, I love the dark. In the daytime, the light hurts my eyes, so that's when I like to go into my tree and sleep." To this, the boy replied, "Well, I like the daytime. I can see to kick a ball. I like the hot sun at the beach. When the dark isn't scary, it's just boring." "Boring, you say," replied the owl, and she clearly had some opinions to express on this point, but just then there was a fluttering and a squeaking around their heads. It took the child just a few seconds to figure out what it was, and he shrieked, "A bat!" And he started flailing his arms to knock the creature away, shrieking the whole time. The shape backed away and, hovering just out of reach, said, "Excuse me, that's just my way of saying hello." "Well, hello to you, Mr. Bat," said the owl. "This child was out here lost in the forest, and I'm helping find his way home. You're not hurt, are you?" "Well," said the bat, "I'll probably have a bruise on my backside, but I think I'll live." "But you're a bat," said the child, "a creature of darkness. Weren't you trying to drink our blood?" "No," said the bat, "but I've been eating lots of yummy insects who would have been biting you if I hadn't been around. Anyway, I couldn't help overhearing that you said about the darkness that it's boring. If you want to come just a little bit out of your way, I can show you something really exciting. My parents always told me never to go any place with strangers, said the child. Owl will vouch for me, said the bat. We've known each other for years and years. Owl agreed that Mr. Bat was indeed an upstanding citizen, so the group went off the path and traveled through the deepest forest for what seemed like just a few minutes, and they came out onto a dark beach. Here we are, said the bat. The child gazed out at the beach, lit very gently by moonlight, and thought, this is certainly beautiful, even in the dark, but I wouldn't call it exciting. Just then, there was movement in the sand, like a little bubble of sand rising up. Then there was another little bubble, and then another. It looked almost as if the beach in the area were looking at starting boiling. Then, out of one of those little bubbles of sand, popped a rounded shape. Looks like we got here just in time, said the bat. As they watched, more and more shadowy shapes came out of the sand, and soon the child realized what he was seeing. Lots of baby turtles, hundreds climbing out of the sand. This was truly exciting. Once each turtle shape pulled itself up out of the sand, it started crawling as fast as its legs could carry it towards the water. When baby sea turtles hatch, said Owl in a sort of teacherly voice, they need to find their way to the water, and they almost always do this at nighttime, because to find the water, they need darkness everywhere else to follow the moon and stars' light reflecting off the water. Daytime sunlight is too bright and scattered everywhere. Oh, said the child. As they turned to leave and head back towards the child's home, Owl spoke again, as if thinking aloud to herself. You know who else loves the darkness besides all the nighttime plants and animals? The moon and the stars love the darkness. That's when they can really shine. Oh, they're there in the daytime as well, hidden behind a wall of light. But when that wall goes down with the sun, the stars and the moon reveal their beauty. After what seemed like a very short time, the child and Owl left the forest and walked down a street that the child recognized as his own. He was very happy and relieved, but also a little sad to say goodbye to Owl, to whom he gave a very gentle hug and a thank you. He went into his home and, being extremely tired, got ready for bed right away. Before he went to bed, as a matter of habit, he bent down to turn on the nightlight that he always kept glowing through the night to keep the dark at bay. But before his fingers touched the switch of the nightlight, he smiled and pulled his hand away. He got into bed, pulled up the covers, and let the comforting arms of the darkness soothe him to sleep. We will sing our children and youth to their programming with Jami, and as we do so, I will light this candle to symbolize the love and warmth of this community that they will carry with them.
Go now in peace,
Now is the time in this service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. Ours is a free faith which must sustain itself financially. Please go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click the donate button, or you may mail your offering to the church at 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, Florida 34689. For those of you who are with us in person in the sanctuary, place your offering in the offering plates as they are passed.
Christmas time is here, happiness and cheer, fun for all that children call their favorite time of year. Snowflakes in the air, carols everywhere, olden times and ancient rhymes of love and dreams to share. Bells in the air, beauty everywhere, Yuletide light, the fireside, and joyful memories there. Christmas time is here, we'll be drawing near. Oh, that we could always see such spirit through the years.
Before we get to our reading, we will take a brief moment of silence to let you settle into yourselves and your seat. Take a few deep breaths deep into your belly if that's comfortable for you. For our reading today and to offer a brief reflection, I have invited the Reverend Cheryl Worrell to come and offer these for us. Reverend Cheryl is a retired Unitarian Universalist minister who served in both parish and clinical settings. She retired and settled in this area, and as a welcome, I invited her to come and participate in worship today. I was also motivated to do so because in the springtime, she is hoping to offer a faith formation program for any adults who are interested in participating. Right now, we're looking at doing a spiritual autobiography writing class that will be co-facilitated, and you will have an opportunity to chat with her during coffee hour if you would like. Reverend Cheryl.
Good morning. Good morning. It's delightful to be here today and in this lovely place. I was sharing with Kristina that when I was here before, I didn't remember the windows. That's because they were covered. It's much brighter in here now, although the paintings, of course, are lovely. But I appreciate the invitation to be here for a few moments and to read to you a reading that Reverend Kristina chose entitled Winter Solstice by Rebecca Parker. Perhaps, for a moment, the typewriters will stop clicking. The wheels stop rolling, the computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs, poised in the crystalline darkness, and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We're not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one, in whose gestures alter Earth's axis toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are cradled in a web of stars, caught in a swaying embrace, rocked by holy night, babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes, in the moment of winter solstice. I love Parker's juxtaposition of images and paradoxes, and as my 6th grade grandson tells me, oxymorons, Grandma. She does wonderful things with words to remind us of this conflicted time, this time when we are pushed along a pipeline, relentlessly it seems, from one holiday to the next, where we are shoved increasingly into jollity and saccharinity. And yet for some of us, some of the time at least, this is not the happiest time of year. Having lived 3.75 of my 4 scores, I can say there are times when this has not been the best of times in my life, and I suspect I'm not alone. One doesn't tangle with life very long before discovering that sometimes life hurts, and we just have to get through it. How do we do that? How do we remember that spring is on the way, that day shall follow the night, and that if it doesn't, we have much bigger problems? How do we keep that in mind? How do we be with another who might be experiencing the joy and optimism and happiness that we don't feel in that moment? Or how do we be with another when we're the one who feels optimistic and joyful and happy and just thrilled with putting up the Christmas tree and all of the ornaments and everything else, and there's a gloomy Gus or a Debbie Downer? How do we do that as humans, as sisters and brothers gathered around the same campfire to tell stories and keep each other warm and scare away the scary things? That is our primeval instinct. I really believe that. Well, it is important to remember that darkness does turn to light. And sometimes all we can do to convince another of that is to sit quietly with them. Not try to fix them, because there is no fixing some sadnesses. But to be with another person is to say to that person, I am here through the night, and that's a reminder that another will understand means it is time, as Parker says, to reveal the splendor of living and wake to life, because nothing says life more than companionship. May it thus always be so.
Sing we now of Hanukkah, happy, happy Hanukkah. Join us as we dance and sing, Shalom, Shalom.
On this festive, happy holiday, I sing a joyful song for all. Come, brothers, dance with me.
On this festive, happy holiday, I sing a joyful song to all. Come, sisters, dance with me.
Sing me
On
now
this
of
festive,
happy,
happy
happy
holiday,
Hanukkah.
I sing
Join
a
us as we
joyful
dance
song
and
to all.
sing
Come, brothers, dance with me. La 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 la. Brothers, dance with me. La 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 la. Sisters, dance with me.
Sing me now
On this
of
festive,
happy,
happy holiday,
Hanukkah.
I sing
Join
a
us as
joyful
we
song
dance
to
and
all.
sing
Come, brothers, dance with me.
I'm sure you've seen at some point the fabulous and amazing creatures that inhabit the deep seas, pictures of them. These animals and other living things live at such depths that there is no sunlight that can reach them. And frankly, if you see a light, you're likely to become lunch very shortly. Like the Pacific viper fish, which has needle-like teeth so long compared to its overall size that it cannot close its mouth, and which has bioluminescent areas on their bellies to draw in prey. Or the angler fish with a part that looks kind of like a fishing rod cast from the heads of the females with a bioluminescent node at the end, which also attracts prey. There it is dark, darker than we can imagine, and still there is life. Apart from giving thanks to live in a place where at least we can mostly see, for those of us with vision, the possible concerning things around us, it's wild to think about places with absolutely no sunlight and where when there is light, it often means danger. Winter is a challenging time in congregational life with approximately 10,000 holidays from Thanksgiving to earliest January, and also the ending of our fiscal year here. Our annual meeting is in January after the year end, December 31st, and new people will be voted on for leadership positions while others will be thanked for their service to this congregation. And nighttime comes earlier in the winter, making the days feel so much shorter now. For just a few more nights before the earth tilts again and the days slowly become longer. I remember one time when I was working at the hospital, a family asked me how long our shuttle ran. It was winter time and dark, and I had started at the hospital earlier that winter and had no idea that we even had a shuttle because I worked second shift, and most of the shift I wasn't able to see it. I didn't much enjoy getting to work and only having maybe 2 hours of daylight left in my shift. While this time of year is often filled with parties, celebrations, gatherings, travel, and general merrymaking, it can also be a difficult time. With the shortened days, those who have seasonal affective disorder can especially have difficulty, as can those of us who have depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses. It is also common for loved ones who have been ill to pass away during this time of year. They often would hold on until their birthdays or favorite holidays and then slip away across the veil. We saw this often when I did hospice and palliative care work. My grandfather made it through Christmas Eve, which was also my grandmother, his wife's birthday, and Christmas, and passed away on December 30th. In fact, I personally have lost a number of loved ones and family friends over the years in this 6 to 8 week time period. There are other reasons this time of year can be hard: feelings of loneliness or isolation, breakups and divorces, difficult family dynamics, and any other loss or hardship that might be part of your life can make this season seem grueling to endure. While the world seems happy, we may feel very sad or scared or alone. Throughout history and in many cultures, winter has been a time of turning inward and turning to each other. Hearths were an integral part of life in the dark. While they do provide light, they also provide warmth in the cold of the dark evening and night. That warmth of community we sometimes refer to. Campfires, fireplaces, candles are all both symbols and physical experiences that draw us together. Each of them invites connection, drawing us into ourselves, into our gathering, into deeper relationship with these and with that which is greater than we are. We might even wonder if it's possible that it was in the dark, gathered around, telling stories, remembering those we have loved who are gone, watching and hearing each other in our wholeness, that perhaps the beginning of ritual and faith was born. This coming week, starting tonight, there are 2 big holidays that will begin: Hanukkah and the winter solstice. Hanukkah, of course, is a Jewish holiday, and the winter solstice is celebrated by pagans, humanists, and atheists, among others. There is also Yule, which begins on the winter solstice and lasts until January 1st. It is also a pagan holiday from the Germanic peoples. The winter solstice is referred to as the longest night and marks the time of the year when the Earth's axis begins to tilt from a northern hemisphere perspective back toward the sun. Slowly, the days become longer, and while winter lasts for some time yet, eventually it thaws and transitions to spring. Celebration of the solstices, winter and summer, goes back long before recorded history, which we know from ancient monuments like the one at Stonehenge, which is aligned with the sunset of the winter solstice and the sunrise of the summer solstice. While still celebrated in many circles with campfires and gatherings, the winter solstice has also been transformed for others into the pinnacle point of the so-called blue holidays, when we honor and recognize the challenges the holiday season presents for many of us. The winter solstice is often framed outside of pagan circles as an overcoming of the darkness with the light. This frame can be problematic because of the way it assumes darkness is inherently bad, that it needs to be overcome, and by extension, the ways that it suggests that those who are dark-skinned are also bad. It's also problematic because those who celebrate the solstice are honoring the culmination of the Earth's movement to the other of the two extremes and the gifts that come only in the dark. It is a time of reflection and celebration. For overnight parties, it is the best night of the year because it will make for the longest party. The other major holiday that we recognize this coming week is Hanukkah. The Hanukkah narrative is often reduced to two things: the burning of the menorah for 8 nights when there was only enough oil for one, and for 8 nights of gift exchange. Often called the Festival of Lights, like many ancient holidays, it is open to a variety of interpretations, largely based on what a person wants to emphasize. In Judea, a king came to power who did not want the Israelites to worship their God or practice their faith. His soldiers descended on Jerusalem, killing thousands of people and desecrating the second temple by erecting an altar to Zeus and sacrificing pigs, among other things. A priest and his sons mounted a protest, and one son, Judah Maccabee, led the push to rid Jerusalem and the temple of the invaders. It was at the rededication of the temple, its cleansing, that the miracle occurred. There was only the slightest amount of undesecrated oil left for the menorah, only enough to last one day. They needed a week to obtain oil that could be used, but the oil they had managed to make it until more oil was found. I love this story, which I've told only very briefly, as we think about the challenges of this season, as the Hanukkah story is one of resistance, self-autonomy, identity, and freedom. Where there is no hope, hope still finds a way. When one group tells another what to believe and how to practice, they gather to find their way back to themselves. With each moment as it passes, we come closer to something else, whether or not we know or can see the way there from where we are. Each moment when we breathe in and then out, and then in again, and out again. and rest our hearts and minds and spirits and bodies, and we let go of all the things that might keep us stuck and afraid. When we can lean in to the sadness or the fear or the loneliness and just be aware of them. As Tess Baumberger wrote in our opening words, it is perhaps helpful to consider that turning toward spring is an active thing. The earth, which seems so stable, in fact, flies quickly through space on its path that tilts us ever towards the source. So too, each memory we lay to rest, each truth in ourselves that we encounter and accept, each wrong act that we forgive ushers us on towards our renewal. Name each element. Be present to what they are communicating with us. Our culture as a whole, and especially during the holidays, doesn't always do a great job of acknowledging that our lives are complex. We might also take heed of these words from public progressive theologian Barbara Brown Taylor, who has written, "I have learned things in the dark that I could never have learned in the light. Things that have saved my life over and over again. So that there is really only one logical conclusion. I need darkness as much as I need light." Sometimes in the dark is when we can see things that would be hidden otherwise. The wonder of new turtles hatching from their eggs, flowers that bloom only in the dark, unusual animals whose lives are lived while people sleep. We find a deeper appreciation for the warmth of community, the magic and sacredness that happens around the flames, and the mystery that make life interesting. We can only see the stars and other celestial bodies when the night is clear and no other light interferes. It is a place of birth and possibility, of wonder and connection. Perhaps we can find a way to offer the same undivided attention and abundant compassion we do with others for ourselves. To mark the magic and the special day of the Earth's planetary balance, we have a small bowl here with water in it. Water is the source of all life, and we need it to survive. I am going to add a pinch of salt. Which may symbolize sadness, like your tears. Or it may mean to bring out the flavor in life. Or it may, as in earth-centered traditions, mean protection and cleansing. It is what you need. And to it I will add 2 stones, one with some jagged edges for the times when life seems sharp and coarse, and one that's smooth and vaguely heart-shaped for times when life seems to be smoother and we feel whole. May you remember that both will happen in turn. And at the same time, but like the water in the bowl, remember too that you are held by a love that will never let you go.
for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through all of our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain that we learned so long ago. Light one candle for the all we believe in, never tear us apart. Light one candle to bring us together, it places us all in our heart. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through all our tears. What is the memory that values so highly? We keep it alive and that flame. What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? Have we come this far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail? This is the burden, this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through all of our tears.
Our closing words come from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this road, this journey through dark and light and their balance, called hope, with me.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you we of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the happiest season of all, with those holiday greetings and gay happy meetings when friends come to call. It's the happiest season of all. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, and caroling out in the snow.
There'll be stories, ghost stories, and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long
Long
ago.
ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Our words are by Maggie Lovins. We extinguish this flame, but not its meaning and mission in our hearts. Our time together has come to an end. Go in peace, be of service to one another, and may you move through the world in love for all of your days. And now we have Jean with